and welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel, welcome back. It's been a long week, but I'm glad we...
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We need to make sure there's not a continuity error at all.
There we go.
This is clearly the following week. In fact, you know what's even worse about
Actually,
this?
it's the previous week.
This is the... Yes, it is the previous week. And this is also the fourth of 5 weeks in a row that I'm wearing tie-dye, apparently. I just realized right now. No, so those of you just tuning in, what we just did is we just filmed the episode that's coming up next week. We're doing it a little out of order, and that's because for a top 8 debate, we always want people on the Board Game Revolution group to be able to vote for some of their favorites, whatever topic that we choose. So we just gave it a little bit of time for them to vote, and we'll be getting into our top 8 debates shortly.
And so, just to make mention, he did say that we're going to get into a top 8 debate shortly. This one is grid coverage games. This is an interesting topic for the first top 8 debate in 2022. Yeah. So everybody who's listening to this, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, absolutely. And so I stumbled upon this. I didn't realize that this was a mechanism until I was looking at one game and it referred it to this. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on, what is this? And I looked at it and I realized we've played enough games that worked for it.
Just barely.
Yeah, just barely. And let's go ahead and read what Board Game Geek defines as grid coverage.
And Board Game Geek defines it as a family of mechanism in which players cover a grid or fill a space using a variety of shapes, such as components, polynomials. Sometimes called a Tetris mechanism, this challenges players to use a shape efficiently. It could be either by the primary point of the game, as in Ubongo, or as a secondary mechanism to force players to plan and restrict their options, as in Princes of Florence. Games that use a single piece type to construct or enclose areas of control, especially when in competition over common spaces, are utilizing Enclosure. No. And then just making mention that if you go to the poll, you can get a link of what games are in this list. Mm-hmm. There is a link there. Also, on the audio and video side on YouTube and the audio podcast side, I will also leave a link to the BGG page there.
Awesome. And so, of course, we also welcome people to add in their own. We'll talk about some of our honorable mentions here in a bit. But specifically, the top 8 that we chose today were chosen because Daniel and I have both played these games. And so some of them might not be your favorite or the highest ranked on Board Game Geek, but we picked the top 8 that are rated that him and I have both played, just so we can give a good argument for either one. And in that way, we're not trying to argue against something that we just don't know. We don't want to talk out of our ears and make stuff up because we just don't know enough about them. So... with that being said, though...
I do have a quick question for you, though.
Yes.
Speaking of the holidays just passing, and we said, Happy New Year, did you get any board games for Christmas?
I did. Well, I got one game for Christmas, and that was Rip Off, which you'll be hearing about in next episode.
Yeah.
And I also received 15 more games that were purchased by myself, and it was a very friendly gift from me that I quite enjoyed. And then, of course, I got a couple other games in the mail that I had been waiting on. Yeah. But, yeah, mostly it's games that I just bought myself. I tried to stick to ones that I knew I definitely wanted. Very few of them went on my shelf of shame, though. Like, for example, cool. Picture Perfect, that's one that I had not played before, but I knew it was really intriguing. I bought that one. I'm excited to play that. But, I bought Aquatica. And because ever since our mutual friend showed me that, I fell in love with that game. And I've only played it once before, and not my own copy, so I did that. And quite a few others that I ended up buying. The new The Crew, Mission Deep Sea.
Yep.
I got that one.
But that's pretty much the Crew space game.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. And sequels I don't put on my shelf of shame just because they're mostly the same game. Unless it's drastically different.
Yeah, exactly.
So I bought quite a few. I could go over them here in a bit. Did you get any good games while I pull that up?
The ones that you were just digging at, Trails and Parks I got for Christmas. We had just recently talked about them too. And you were like, yeah, you can have both. If you have one or the other, you can choose, but they play slightly different as both. And so my wife got them for me for Christmas, both Parks and Trails. A funny story about Trails, though. She thought it was actually an expansion to Parks, and so she grabbed it, and she's like, okay, well, he'll have this, and he'll have the expansion, because there was a couple expansions for Parks at the same place. And she's like, So did I do good? This is the expansion, right? I'm like, no, this is its own game. Yeah. It's in the same line as Parks, but it's its own game.
Right.
And she's like, oh, I didn't get you the expansion. I'm like, no, this is great. I can have both of these games, and I've heard they're really good. So and I'm looking forward to it.
They're both good enough where you could have each different game. Like if you have, I mean, technically it's supposed to be like Trails is the mini version of Parks.
Yeah.
That's like saying Terraforming Mars, Ares Expedition is the mini version of Terraforming Mars. No, they're different games. They happen to be set in the same concept, and they do some similar things, but really they're different games.
Yeah, so I wasn't disappointed. She's like, oh, I did it again, because the joke is I asked for Dune Imperium for Christmas. I think it was 2020 last year. Or 2020, because it's 2022 when this shows up for everybody. Yep. And she got me regular Dune, as you can see on my shelf of shame, right up there. Yeah. So,
which I'm sure you're going to enjoy.
Oh, yeah. And then she's like, oh, okay, well, just go ahead and buy yourself Dune Imperium since I got you the wrong one. I'm like, it's fine. I'm looking forward to it. I love getting board games for Christmas or my birthday. That's just what I like to do. And so I'm not disappointed on that. And she's like, well, I just was hoping to get you the expansion for it. And I'm like, well, it's good. I got 2 base games, and to see if I really, really enjoy them, I can get the expansions for them later on.
Exactly.
So, no, it works for me. I got that, and I also got some card packs for Marvel Champions. So
which happened to be within reach of me.
Yeah. He's showing off the Venom pack.
Yep.
And then I have the Green Goblin scenarios. And the one thing I did want to mention was something I was surprised about. Is what you noticed when you first walked into this room. Yes. A friend of mine gave me Quest calendars, which is a everyday RPG game that I can play whenever I pull it off the daily stuff. It even comes with a little pack of dice. I have my character already chosen, even though you're not supposed to have the character chosen before you start, it says. But we had a choice. My wife actually got a copy. She's the necromancer. I decided to go with the artificer. Our mutual friend, I don't know which one she went with. I think she was either going to be the feline monk or the half human or half elf pirate. So, but it's a game that I can play every day of the week, 365 days out of the year, because it's for the year of 2020. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah. So the ones I got. We spoke Clank Legacy, which that's perfect for my Legacy group. That since we just finished up Pandemic Legacy Season 0, Pendulum, Picture Perfect, Aquatica, New York Zoo, which was the only one I bought not knowing much about, but I know it's an Uwe Rosenberg, it's a Polyomino, and it's a bigger game, and it's from Capstone, so there's a good odds.
It's actually got a nice cover for a Capstone game.
Yeah, it's quite pretty. Ticket to Ride Track Switcher, which is like a 1-player puzzle game.
Okay,
I got that one. That one's cool.
I heard about that.
Micro Macro Full House, the sequel to Micro Macro. Nice. Yep. King Domino Origins, which a mutual friend of ours, Dom, taught me how to play.
That is the one that it's the prehistoric, right?
The prehistoric version of
King
Domino.
Yeah.
It does a lot of really neat things. The volcanoes are super fun. Cantaloupe, which I talked about in next week's episode. That's
Cantaloupe, right?
Cantaloupe.
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 Yeah,
got
Cantaloupe. Red Cathedral, which I played, and I love that game. Pinball, a Super Skill Pinball, the Ramp It Up.
I do have to say, though, Red Cathedral, it's a nice cover, but it's a dated cover for something that's supposed to be new.
We've got it. Yeah, we had this whole discussion prior to this. Land vs. Sea, Encore, which is kind of like a Splendor variant.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Crew Mission Deep Sea, and Cockroach Poker. So those were my self-bought Christmas gifts.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, no, those are some good games. Like I said, I was just surprised that I got both Parks and Trails.
Yeah, I will gladly show you how to play Trails or Parks one of these days. We won't have time for Parks today, but
no,
Trails would be fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have because we got to get this done because you have to go do fatherly duties.
Yeah, absolutely. The usual.
The usual.
Yeah, but that's fine. So this week, like we said, our top 8 debate is going to be grid coverage. And grid coverage, you use pieces to cover parts of the grid, whether it be 1 tile, 2 tiles, polyominoes, whatever it is. There's quite a few that are examples of that, but let's talk about our honorable mentions.
Should we talk about the people's honorable mentions first?
Let's give them some more time. I know normally we talk about theirs first, but...
Yeah, okay.
Do you want to give them a little more time?
Sure.
Okay, so... let's go into it. My number 3 honorable mention is Clip Cut Parks. And what this game is, it comes with a grid of different terrain types, and you're giving you're given a card. This is not on this list, but I very much think it should be, because you then roll a die, and that will tell you how many cuts and what length those cuts are going to be onto your paper. And so you're cutting out different shapes that should go onto this grid that you have, and you're trying to complete these different parks by putting the correct ones. Certain ones need certain kind of coverage on it. Certain ones need to be in certain shapes or have certain colors on it. It's really creative.
Yeah.
Like, and the first player marker is a pair of scissors, which I think is humorous. You know, that cracks me up that you're passing around scissors. Actually, no, I'm sorry. In that one, every player has their own pair of scissors. And it's a very inexpensive game. It's not very expensive. It has good components in it. You're cutting apart basically sheets of paper, nothing more higher quality than you would have in like a roll and write. But yeah, overall, I just think it's a really fun game, and I can't wait to see the sequel eventually at some point.
All right, so for my number 3, I just literally had to jump onto the thing again because I couldn't find one. So I'm going to talk about one I haven't played before, and there's going to be 2 on this list for that reason. But this one I really, really want to dig into, and that was Feast for Odin.
Oh, yes.
I really want to try this one. I have liked a lot of Uwe Rosenberg games. Mm-hmm. This one, just, it sings to me because I really like Viking, Valhalla, that kind of stuff, the Norse mythology. And I've enjoyed some of his polynomial games. The one that's on our list we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, no, I really looked into it. Looks like a mutual friend of ours has it, so I do want to see if we can get that to the table and try it out.
Cool. All right. Number 2. Go ahead and lead us off.
That's me.
Yep.
This is the second game on my list that I have not played, but this one I actually own. And this one is in the Mountain... What is it called?
In the Hall of the Mountain King?
In the Hall of the Mountain King, or Hall of the Mountain King is what it's called. And it looks good. I own it. I want to try it. It just hasn't hit the table yet. It's one of my more recent buys that I picked up on like Deal of the Day from Game Nerds or something like that. But I do want to try it. I want to get to the table. This is probably another one that next game night I'll probably try to get played.
Cool. My number 2 is one that I have constantly been at your neck about trying to play this because I know you're going to love every minute of it. It's Castles of Tuscany.
This is why I didn't put this on the list because it was going to be my actual number 3, but then I'm like, he's probably got it on his.
Yep, nope, I definitely do because I think it's an awesome game. It's phenomenal. It's almost replaced Castles of Burgundy, which may or may not be appearing on our list later. And I just think it's an awesome game. If you like Stefan Feld, or even if you like Castles of Burgundy and want more of like a stripped down, streamlined version of it, it's a very different game. It's one of those ones where I'm okay having both.
Okay.
But yeah, Castles of Tuscany is just awesome.
Cool. I do want to try this. This is something that I've been wanting to get played. And finally, let's go to our number... Or that was your number 1 or number 2? So
that was my number 2. So our number 1...
I'll start. Along the lines of Castle of Tuscany, this one may or may not show up on our top 8 debate here. But this one for me is Cartographer Heroes. I find this game phenomenal. I've said it before. This is my favorite flip and write out there. I love the aspect of this one, the heroes exactly, because they actually fight off the monsters that can give you negative points in the game. So you can use the heroes in a great way. Also like the fact that some of the monsters will actually destroy land. So hey, it's filled. It's technically filled, but now you can't put anything to help with your scoring as well. So it makes Cartographers a little more gamery. So if you want something that's just easy to play with non-gamers, Cartographers regular by itself is fine. Cartographer Heroes, if you want that next step, is pretty good. And then I also got to mention like the map packs. They do their own little tricks. Like you have to... There's one where you could build above or below a certain line, but if you build above, it has to be completely above ground, and if you build below, it's got to be completely below ground. There's ones that if you're building in a cave system, they have to be adjacent to something that's already been built, whereas in Cartographers, you could build wherever you want, however you want, all over the map. Yeah. So I love the volcano. There's a volcano one where like if the volcano blows up,
make games so much better.
It starts destroying stuff that you've already built. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. So this one for me is Cartographer Heroes, my number 1, plus the map packs.
Very cool. All right. And my number 1 is a game by Matt Leacock. And this is kind of a remake of Roll Through the Ages, actually. It's called Era the Medieval Age.
Yeah, okay.
And it has amazing components. A lot of the function is still the same, where, you're rolling dice, gaining resources. But this one, you're actually building 3D buildings onto your grid that have, like, pegs in it. The buildings are really well made. There's only a limited supply, so when those are out, they're out. You can't keep building them.
Yeah.
You have to maintain also having all those buildings as well. They score in different ways. You want to have it walled in. There's just so much really cool things going on in it that I already liked Roll Through the Ages. So when I found out that this was like a 3D model version of that game that does a few different things, it's awesome. And also, I think this game has one of the prettiest covers I've ever seen. I think it's fantastic. Era the Medieval Age, gorgeous cover.
Cool. Speaking of gorgeous coverage, I'm just trying to get re-updated on one of the games that we have to argue.
Yep.
It's been a while since we played it, so I had to learn it a little bit more.
Yeah, that's not a problem. So let's talk about the honorable mentions from the viewers.
I also forgot to mention that I got to build those, so go ahead and read them.
Okay, sounds good.
Let me refresh this real quick for you.
Yeah, no problem. Our first one that was added by Daniel clicking around sporadically was added by Tommy, and that's Isle of Cats. I'm emphasizing the way you say that because I don't like the way it implies Isle, like islands, of cats. Once again, Isle of Cats. Not. I do not love.
For those who are new to our podcast, this Daniel over here has a deep-seated hatred for cats.
I don't hate cats. I'm just okay if they were extinct. That's all. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. That won't hurt my feelings. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it might hurt our viewers' feelings, though.
Okay, well that's fine. If you like cats, cool. You can have mine. I don't need it. No, I'm kidding. But I'm not a fan of them. Whatever. And the fact that this game, the reason it's called Isle of Cats, is because it's trying to make you say, I love cats, which I refuse to do. And that made me dislike the game even more when I found out about that. Now, full disclosure, I've never played that game. Tommy is probably onto something. I've heard it's really good.
I've heard really good.
I just wish that it wasn't about cats, because that doesn't make sense.
What game was it? I think it was Ankh that made you the first player because you're the only one of that group that actually owns
a cat. Yes, because my wife owns a cat.
Because it's like the first player is who owns the most cats goes first, and you're the only one out of our group that owns a cat.
Right.
I can't have them because I'm allergic.
Yep. I wish I were. I tested specifically hoping that I was.
This way you don't have a cat?
Yeah, so I could use that as an excuse. And then Clint added Hall of the Mountain King, which is a little reference that you made earlier. And I think there's one comment, yes, but that was one made by you, so that's all the honorable mentions by our viewers.
Wow.
That's right. Yeah, everything else was added by us.
That was quick, because I've got all that done.
Yeah. Once again, Isle.
So you love cats, right?
Nope. The game's name is Isle, like islands, of Cats.
So you love cats?
No. Once again, we're not gonna. No, this is getting dumb. All right. So that's
What is it? Our podcast getting dumb?
That's true.
I mean, just we did the cantaloupe joke again.
That's true. Not again. We did it for the first time. Next episode, we'll somehow do it again, and we know this
because we can see the future.
Let's talk about the 8 that we added to the list that you and I have both played.
All right, sounds good.
Our number 1 seed is a universal favorite amongst the Everyday Board Games podcast.
People.
Castles of Burgundy by Stefan Feld.
And that's going to be going up against the number 8 seed, Rome, by Ryan Lockett.
All right, and our number 2 seed, an Uwe Rosenberg game, Patchwork.
Going up against a Phil Walker Harding game, Silver and Gold.
That's going to be tough. Number 3 seed, Cartographers by Thunderworks Games.
Going up against the number 6 seed by AEG Games, Tiny Towns.
And our number 4 seed, Jamie Stegmaier.
Somehow always
Tapestry.
Gets on the...
Yep.
And they're going up against the number 5 seed of Phil Walker Harding, Barren Park. And that one, unfortunately, I think is going to be a sad one because...
A lot of these have a lot of really good games and a lot of designers and publishers that we really, really like
enjoy,
in this podcast.
Yeah.
So this makes sense that we enjoy this game.
Oh, yeah, and it's a good thing that these are on the list because, like I said, this is kind of digging the barrel. I barely can come up with, 11 games, and 2 of which I haven't played, so I've played a total of 9.
That's right. So the way that we rank these is we're going to go through a series of rounds debating each of those seeds, and we're going to start, we have 5 different criteria that we base it off of. And so we will each get one of the games chosen at random from us with the Cup of Doom, and one of us will be debating each side using the Coin of Doom. And we will debate for 5 different criteria as far as what we enjoy about the games and which ones potentially are better. The first of those criteria are ease of play. And this is talking about how easy are the mechanisms, how familiar are they, like is it easy to get to the table, like either by the mechanism or the themes, and also as a detriment, which ones cause more analysis paralysis.
Which slows the game down.
Right, which is either like too many choices or too strategic of choices, too long term, which could slow down the game and make it less fun for other players.
Especially when you're playing with min-max players.
Right, exactly.
All right, and the next one on our list here is replay value. This is the length of time and scaling well. Does a 2-player game play as well as a 4-player game? The minimum number of plays to get the full experience of this game. What we mean by is if you play chess, one and done, you know how to play it.
Yep.
Or if you're going to play like a campaign game, hey, you need to play at least 50 games for you to get the full experience of what's going on in this game. Because you got to open all these boxes, you got to do this. Or just a legacy game, Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is like, you could play up
minimum
to
12.
Minimum 12, maximum 24.
Yep.
And so that tells you, hey, I could do 12 games or 24 games. How long is it going to be for you to do that that thing? As well as the expandability of a game. Does it already have existing expansions? We're allowing up to 1 possible future expansion if we believe it's going to happen. Our big one here is Space Base. It usually said Volume 1. We were assuming there was a Volume 2. Hey, guess what? There is a Volume 2. They finally announced it after a few years. Or it has been confirmed by a designer or publisher. Our go-to, again, is Wingspan, because both Jamie Stegmaier and Elizabeth Hargrave has stated that they want to do an expansion for every continent.
Yep. Our next category is meaningful choice, and this is specifically about the gameplay strategies.
Yeah.
How well can you affect other players' strategies? How well can you plan for long-term strategy on your own benefit? And what's the likelihood of you doing arbitrary choices? Like, for example, if every option that I have available is a good option or all of them is a bad option, well, both of that just means I'm picking kind of randomly because it won't, my choices won't be meaningful at that point.
Yeah.
So everything's the same quality, you know. I might not have good choices or I might have too many good choices, both of which impact the meaningful choices.
The next one up here is game immersion. And what we mean by this is, does the game fit the category best or the theme matching the mechanism? In this case in point, we're asking does the theme match the mechanism? Does the grid coverage meet the theme of the game?
Right.
As well as player interactions. Table talk is a good example of it. You maybe don't get as immersed if you're just talking trash to each other. But if you're role-playing a character, or heck, even I agree trash talking does count because it gets you into the game. If it's a push your luck game and you're egging your opponent on to push their luck, that's a great job. As well as memorable moments. What is that stand-up moment that makes everything stop for you and you to shout out and scream, yes, I did it, and allow the whole room to stare at you like, what is going on over there?
Yep. And then our final criteria is art and production. Now, we know that art and production is, of course, subjective. It absolutely is. And it makes it difficult when we go by the same artist or same publisher.
Yeah.
Since they use a lot of the same. But sometimes, you know, the art can be very clearly better done, you know. And unfortunately, that detracts from, like, older games oftentimes. But not always. What about the pieces and components? Sure, everybody would like to have minis compared to like cardboard tokens, But that's not always the case. If those minis are large and unfunctional, then that could be a detriment.
And sometimes a meatball is better than a mini.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Carcassonne with minis probably wouldn't be as good, actually. I don't think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and our last one is graphic design. For those of you who don't know this already, we've said this in every one of our top 8 debates, Daniel and I are colorblind. So that's important for us. If the graphic design doesn't cater to people who are colorblind, or people who have, like low vision eyesight, like unable to read small text, if they don't take stuff into account for that, then
iconography heavy that people don't easily understand.
Right, exactly. Like non-functional.
I like to use this one, Pandemic. The lines on the board. It's well done. We can see it.
Yeah,
but if you have a game that is this connected to this, and you can't really tell because there's a line in one of the board game creases and stuff like that, that's a bad graphic design choice.
Exactly. So that's a big one for us. So that's where art and production comes in. And that also includes everything from all components to the box to everything.
Yeah. As well as, finally, this is not a topic that we discuss, but if we can't come to an agreement on a game, that's where you come in handy. If you go to the Board Game Revolution community on Facebook, we usually put a poll up there determining what our games are as well as your own. Whoever has the highest vote is the tiebreaker. So if, say, 2 of our games are tied and they're going head-to-head, you get to decide which one moves on.
That's right. And I think normally we close the poll prior to this, but I think today we're leaving it open. Just give extra people. So if you're watching us live, go get your votes in now.
Yeah.
Because it may matter later.
Exactly.
All right. So with that being said, Daniel, are you ready for round number 1?
I am.
All right. So this will be Castles of Burgundy versus Rome. I will be starting off, I believe. No, you will be starting off. I knew it was going to be a Daniel that started off. And you're going to be arguing for something that apparently you were rather upset over.
Not upset about it, but this is the one game I vaguely remember playing.
Okay.
And this is Rome.
Okay.
Honestly, I want to make a good argument for Rome, and I'm going to try.
Do you want to trade on this? Because I do remember Rome quite a bit.
No, it's not that I don't remember. I do remember it somewhat. It's more along the fact that it's going up against Castles of Burgundy, which is one of my all-time favorite games. I think it was in top 10.
Yeah,
if I remember when I did my top 100 games.
Very likely.
But, so Rome, I will say this, hands down, it wins one category right off the bat.
Art and production?
Oh, heck yes. Ryan Lockett art, which is phenomenal.
Yep.
The component quality of this game is amazing. The graphic design's really well, too. But this is also comparing Castles of Burgundy. Even with the upgraded new one, this beats it hands down, because that upgraded new one is not much better than the original.
Yeah, it's slightly better.
And again, it's a Leia, so they like their greens and browns and pastel colors. I also think Rome is a bit simpler than Castles of Burgundy.
It is.
The likelihood it gets to the table, I think, is the only thing it would lose, but not necessarily, because you say Feld or Lockett, and that's going to be a tough choice. This one is not even mechanism or theme. This one is Ryan Lockett or Stefan Feld, because you're going to have people that are fans of it. I just think ease of play and art and production go to Rome, because also, and I've ran into this, Castles of Burgundy can lead to some analysis paralysis.
Some very hard analysis paralysis, yeah. I would give art and production and ease of play easily to Rome.
But other than the other 3 criteria, I don't, and to the point with the game immersion, memorable moments, I barely remember this game.
Yeah, agreed. So my counter argument is Castles of Burgundy, and so let's move that on.
And just so everybody knows, I do remember Rome to somewhat. I looked it up. I've been rereading it, and it was refreshed in my mind. But Castles in Burgundy, it's going to win replay value on our list. The length of time, Rome is better on the length of timing of it. Castles of Burgundy can be a little bit longer, depending on you add more players. Like a 2-player game plays quickly.
Yeah,
but if you're
honestly,
playing
a 4-player game of Rome, I remember it just taking longer than I felt it should have.
I think we only played a 3-player. It's still, minimum number of plays, again, that's going to be Castles of Burgundy, because you're not going to see everything that's coming up. As well, and same with Rome, but there's a lot of variations, especially when you add in the expandability with the expansions. There's quite a few expansions for Castles of Burgundy. You have a lot more meaningful choices in Castles of Burgundy compared to Rome, because you're basically determining your card, how you're going to use it and play it in Rome, as well as the game immersion. I just have more game immersion in Castles of Burgundy. Mind you, I've played it a lot more too.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah, no, Castles of Burgundy moves on. That was an easy one.
Oh, yeah. Moving into our second one,
Let's make sure we're still streaming real quick. Sorry. Quick pause. I'm not able to see it. Okay, cool.
And now,
recording good.
Yep,
okay.
We're good. So moving on to our number 2, which is Patchwork versus Silver and Gold. This one's tricky.
Yeah, Patchwork versus Silver and Gold, because there's a lot of similarities between the two. But I'll start off the arguing this time. And now we are shaking up the cup of doom.
You get Patchwork.
I get Patchwork. Cool. I'm okay with that. Because Patchwork, what it does, and I know this is difficult because it's going up against one of my favorite designers. I like Ove a lot, but, I mean, Phil Walker Harding is one of my favorite designers. But these are very, very similar games in the fact that what you're doing is you are putting polyomino tiles into the grid, which, of course, is our theme. The difference being you could put it pretty much anywhere in your 9x9 grid in Patchwork. However, in Silver and Gold, you can only place it within the shapes that you're getting, which is intriguing, but that's the only level higher other than components. The dry erase cards is a very good mechanism, but Patchwork, the reason why I think it should move on is because, yes, you're doing the same as far as Polyomino is laying, but the whole economic impact of what you're getting, everything has 2 factors for it. Every patch that you're putting down, actually 3 factors really, is how many spaces it covers and in what shape. The next thing is if it has any buttons, because then that's money that will come back to you continuously more and more after every single time pass. But then also how much time it takes, because time is limited in this game, and only the player who's farther back on the time track gets to take their next turn and choose from there. Like choosing only from the next 3 tiles going in that loop, determining which makes the most sense. Like, well, I want to spend a lot of time on this, but that would give you a lot of opportunity. But this one covers up a lot of spaces, but doesn't give me back buttons, which is what I need to buy more tiles.
Yep.
This one gives me a lot of buttons, but it's only covering up a little bit of space. There's so much meaningful choice in Patchwork that it's definitely not a filler, and I don't consider it whatsoever.
Oh, no.
As far as ease of play
goes, it's a very
goes,
strategic 2-player game.
It's a very strategic 2-player game, and I feel like as far as simplicity goes, yeah, it's slightly less simple than Silver and Gold, and just barely. Because, I mean, who doesn't understand putting a Tetris piece in, basically? Yeah. But the thing is that the amount of choice and how much strategy you have going into Patchwork is absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. So I personally think Patchwork should move on because of that. But make your argument.
All right, so my argument is ease of play. We both agree that Silver and Gold is much easier to play comparative to this.
I wouldn't say much, but yeah, it's easier. Yes.
I could teach this to non-gamers more than I can teach Patchwork, because there's just a lot of tricks with Patchwork. In a Uwe Rosenberg game, I think his simplest game is his most fun game.
Sure.
And you know what that one is? It's Bonanza.
Bonanza, yeah.
So I say ease of play is Silver and Gold. I give you meaningful choice. Patchwork does have a lot more meaningful choices out there, because honestly, you're just flipping a card, you're filling in a space. There's one thing I like about Silver and Gold that does, like, you can't fill a space, fine, you just make an X.
Yep.
That's fine if you can't use that shape, which slows it down for you.
The same thing. If you can't buy a shape, you can instead choose to jump in front of your opponent, gaining the income from the amount of spaces that you jump, which is also an interesting choice.
It is. That's why I said I give you meaningful choice. Yep. Game immersion, at the replay value, I think goes to Silver and Gold.
Yeah.
The length of time and scaling well. Patchwork only plays 2.
Yes, it only plays 2.
And it doesn't play it's not a quick 2-player game. It's not
it's 20
long.
Minutes, right?
Yeah, most games I played of it's about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Silver and Gold can play about 20 minutes at a full 4-player game. We've played a game of Silver and Gold at 2 players in 10 minutes.
Neither of them are expandable. However, the Patchwork has came out with a lot of different versions.
Variants, yes. And the big thing about Silver and Gold, it's not in print anymore.
Yep.
But we're talking about what we've played.
It's still for sale, though.
Yeah, it's just that Panasaurus has even said they're not printing it anymore.
Yeah, that's a shame.
So ease of play, I think, goes to Silver and Gold. Meaningful choice, I think, goes to Patchwork. Replay value, I think, goes to what is it? Silver and Gold. And I say art production actually goes to Patchwork.
Okay. Yep.
Just because, the cards are nice.
The production is the best thing about Silver and Gold.
The art is barely there.
Yeah, there's really not. I mean, icons are okay.
So for me, it comes down to game immersion.
Game immersion. Now,
does the game match the mechanism? Both of them do really well on that.
I'm gonna say, as far as theme matching mechanism, Patchwork makes more sense because in Patchwork, you are sewing patches. Now, sure, you wouldn't have polyomino patches in a real quilt, but you are still sewing squares in a pattern. Whereas Silver and Gold, you're not digging up in a grid.
If you're actually, they're doing it more for treasure hunting, but if you're actually, and it's smart, like how you're doing it in treasure hunting is like a modern day today, you are digging up in grids. If you look at any archaeology dig site or people that are trying to find stuff, they're doing it in a grid. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's different though. If I was out there with a metal detector or with a pirate map, I'm not.
Yeah, but that's not what they're going for. You're just digging for treasure, and if you do it rightly or smartly, you're going to do it in a grid.
Exactly, and that's why I think
So both of them, like I said, they both fit it. I just think agree with you. Patchwork fits a little bit better because quilting fits more than digging up for treasure. Player interactions. Patchwork's fine.
No interaction in Silver and Gold.
No, not really. Same with Patchwork, other than moving the piece and like someone takes your piece. There's not.
Right. I mean, you can hate draft in it.
No,
you can't hate draft in Silver and Gold, but that's not what this is about. Well, player interaction is how you would talk to each other.
You can hate draft in Silver and Gold. If you see someone's looking for diamond bonuses and you take the diamonds,
but
that's about it. Also, I've had more memorable moments in Silver and Gold than Patchwork, just because Patchwork is. It's, again, both of these games are more mechanistic than they are actual thematic.
Right. I would say...
And to the point that how many versions of Patchwork is there now? There's Americana.
Yeah,
there's Halloween. There's a Christmas one. Yeah. There's the original one. There's Express.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's
memorable moments.
So for me, and this is why I say I think personally Silver and Gold go to a memorable moment. It's a story you tell all the time about Silver and Gold. Every time you show this game, somebody goes and buys it.
Right. And the detriment one that I would argue is that Silver and Gold, or Patchwork, the really strange part about it is when at the end of the game, you're going to count every empty spot, and that's -2 points, which is a huge hit. And oftentimes, when you first play Patchwork, you're going to end up negative. But here's the thing. The first game I ever got positive score, I was elated. I loved every second of it, and that was a huge memorable moment for me. I think the
first time I played this game, I got a positive score. The second time I played this game, it was negative 10 to 5. That was the final score.
Yeah.
So I have a big issue with that too. I get what you're saying going into the positive. So I think I say Patchwork matches mechanism. I think there's more player interaction for Patchwork, just barely.
Yeah, I mean,
Therefore, I think I agree. Patchwork moves on.
Just barely, right? Cool. All right, Patchwork moves on. Just barely, though, because they really are. I mean, if you like one, you're probably going to like the other.
Yeah, and honestly, they're mechanistic. They're the theme for it is vaguely there.
Well, I appreciate that they... One of the things I like about Patchwork is the fact that that does make sense with the theme of quilting. You know, it really does. They could have done something like, oh, you are sewing the fabric of time and space of and make up some weird.
Oh, they will. Look at how many
eventually. No, but I'm saying they could have done a generic we're gonna put this in a fantasy thing and you're building buildings on this area. They could have done something completely broken, right?
Yeah, no, I get you that.
Thematic, but they chose to go with a sensible theme. Boring, yes, but sensible made sense.
Well, it's Uwe Rosenberg.
That's right. That's true.
All right.
Because they're either farming or something else.
Yeah.
All right. So our next one is Cartographers versus Tiny Towns. You'll be starting us off.
And which one do I get? Oh, hey, cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Cartographers. That one actually, This one's a little tough for me because I really enjoy both of these games.
Yep.
A lot. I would say, I guess my wife just showed up because my dog's squeaking her toy.
Yeah, I just heard that.
So, I enjoy Tiny Towns. I think it's really good. But when it comes to theme matching the mechanism, did you know when you first played Tiny Towns that it was a village of animals?
No. No idea.
When did you find out it was a village of animals?
When somebody had pointed it out to me.
You know when I found out?
What?
When the expansion came out.
Right. Yeah. I think that's when everybody discovered it. They're like, wait a minute, what?
Exactly.
Yeah. That theme is not there.
On the last debate, when I was talking about mechanistic, Tiny Towns.
But talk about memorable moment, though. We all knew exactly where we were when we found out Tiny Towns was about animals.
All right, so going into this, Cartographers, I think, again, I'm going to try to take my bias out of this as much as possible. I am. But I love this game. The replay value of this game is there. It scales pretty well. I've played a 4-player game of it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You know the lightsaber's within reach, right?
Yes, it is. That's correct. Yep.
So that is the first time I've threatened you today.
Yes. For this episode, yes. Correct.
So the length, I think replay value goes to Cartographer. It scales pretty well. Not really when it comes to like the minimum number of plays to get the full experience. I agree. Tiny Towns gets that just in the base game alone.
Yep.
But when we're coming to the expansions, they have 4 map packs. Mm-hmm. You could buy the skills pack that allows you to find a way to use our coins. There's 2 of those, as well as a monster pack, an additional monster pack. Yep. So
Tiny Towns only has the 2 full expansions and 1 smaller pack.
Yeah, so there's up there for Cartographers. Plus, it came with colored pencils. So when we go into art and production, it came with colored pencils. The collector's edition.
Yeah.
But base game, it comes with pencils in there. Art and production, I think, goes to Tiny Towns. But with Cartographers, I think there's a lot of much more meaningful choices. When Tiny Towns, but sometimes you're beholden to what's at the table that you can call that for your card purposes, like if you're building a well or something like that. I just think Cartographers, because you can go anywhere you want on the map, and then when monsters come up, you can go anywhere on the map to screw the opponents over too. So I personally think Cartographers should move on. But let's hear you out on Tiny Towns.
Okay, I do think Tiny Towns should move on, and I will explain why. Ease of play, I do think it's easier than Cartographers. And that's because most of them are, they're essentially bingo. Everybody is beholden to whatever flips, whatever token is done. However, of course, for meaningful choice, there is no random, there is no result of something happening. You choose what your fate, effectively.
But you're also choosing
for the other players, which, of course, there's a factor of you wanting to pick for yourself, but also at the same time, you want to pick something that that other players likely won't be picking, because the ones that they will likely pick, you need to play to your advantage. So, like, if I know that you're going to pick glass, I'm probably not going to pick it, even if I need it, because I know you're going to benefit me by doing so.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of headroom that can be done well. Art and production, agreed. Tiny Towns. I don't think that's an argument. But as far as replay value, I do think that should go to Tiny Towns, and I'll explain why. Because
by our own criteria, it should not go to Tiny Towns.
No, I do think it should go to Tiny Towns for replay value.
Where?
Because of length of time and scaling well. Technically, Tiny Towns can be played with an infinite number of players as long as you have
only if you play the variant.
Yeah, only if you play the variant with the random cards. Yes, but it does not change time-wise as far as how long the game goes.
It can.
Not really.
And here's the one detractor
not any more than just waiting for people to play. And if you put a timer on saying, okay, make your decision within a minute or 2 minutes or whatever, and then we go on to the next card, then there's no excuse for anybody who's not meeting that criteria.
But yeah, that's you're forcing a timer in a game that doesn't come with a timer in the game. Cartographers already has that timer.
Yeah.
You have that countdown. Hey, if this card flips and it equals 6, that's it. That's the end of the game.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Is that the timer I'm saying is like you can't say that the game is going to take the same amount of time regardless of the number of players.
No, because I've played it at a con and Yeah, played quicker than a 4-player game. Because that's
but a 4-player and a 6-player version of Tiny Towns is the same time. Analysis paralysis on one player does not affect every other player because you're all playing simultaneously.
Yeah, I can't give you the replay value because even if you go length of time and scaling well, minimum number of plays for the full experience
is Tiny Towns.
I can't give you the length of time though.
I have to say it only is. So we can call it a wash.
We could call it a wash. The thing is, because I can play a 6-player game, we're all playing at the same time. You have to choose to
until the scoring rounds. You have to score those separate, no? In Cartographers.
What do you mean in the scoring?
Like at the end of the seasons or the packs, right? You have to do individual stuff, don't you?
No, you score your own thing.
Okay.
So with Cartographers, you have your 4 scorings. The monster is the only one that you go around. And eventually, when you get into the final round, depends on where you're going to put the monster. It's not going to take as much of effect. You just have to be smart about it. Like if a monster comes up in the first round, you have to start building around the monster. That's the big thing about it. But if you get into the 3rd round or a 4th round, for spring or fall, if a monster comes up, most of your board's already filled up, so it's not going to give you as much negative spaces.
I'm just saying it. The scaling works better in Tiny Towns than it does in Cartographers.
I don't think so.
I do. So
I've played it in a big group because I played it when it was introduced.
I played Tiny Towns in a huge group. I played it with 12.
No, I'm not talking about Cartographers. I played Tiny Towns in a huge group, and it was 18.
Okay.
At a convention.
Yeah. And it still played just as long as a 4-player game would.
It took 45 minutes to play through it.
Okay. Because they were just allotting extra time for more people. That it doesn't have to, though.
But I'm saying...
Yeah, scaling
when you have to fix roles to make it work as scaling well.
Fix rules. No, that's not... No.
Yeah, it's fixing the rules.
There's 2 different versions of how you can play it. One just works better with larger players, but it doesn't change the time frame at all.
It still changes the rule.
Call it a
And then you were also saying about...
call it a wash.
You got to add a timer in there, which is not in the rules.
No, you don't have to. That's saying if you're worried about
I don't think that... I've played both with large
We will call it a
groups.
wash because we can agree. So replay value, wash. Meaningful choice, Tiny Towns. Game immersion. Okay.
I will
give you memorable moments for sure because I know that's one of your arguments. Memorable moments for Cartographers.
Not just that, the theme matching the mechanism.
Oh, I don't think that makes any sense in Cartographers.
You're building a map.
Yeah, and the grid doesn't.
You're building a map.
Yeah, no, but like you don't build maps in real life. Like you don't build the terrain and the patterns. Like it doesn't.
No, but you're discovering it. Oh, here's the forest or a town. That's what you discovered.
You're discovering where you choose to put it.
But you're discovering it as you're writing.
I want to go 2 miles north that way. Oh God, it's going to be a forest.
We got another argument in place. So
I'm just saying, like, I don't think the theme matches the mechanisms for either of them.
More so in Cartographers because you're building
Tiny
a map.
Towns, I think city planning makes more sense than building a map. Like, you know, I mean, I know it's fantasy.
Well, we got another wash here. So player interactions.
Okay, player interactions.
Cartographers has more in that one. Because Tiny Towns, literally someone just calls something and you build something.
No, but that's what's so great about it. Because you're like, all right, please call it. I'll call glass. Oh, you son of... Like, why did you call glass? Like, because I need glass.
Okay, that's cool.
I love that. That happens every time I play.
I like that.
It's fun.
But when the monster card comes up and someone gets to dictate where the monster card is, like, why'd you put it there, you jerk?
Okay. So then, fair enough to call it a wash then?
Fair enough to call it a
wash.
wash.
All right, I'll go to Cartographers then because of memorable moments. All right, that's fair. Art and production, we already decided was Tiny Towns.
Oh, yeah.
So it's 2 and 2?
Yeah, we got a tie, so... we actually have to go...
And replay value is a wash, so yeah.
We have to go to a vote.
Okay, very good.
I'm going to do a refresh.
Do either of them have votes yet?
I'm going to do a refresh. We'll find out. Cartographers.
Okay, that's fair. I'll let that go on.
It's just... We're going to have to keep doing a refresh every time we got to go to a vote.
That's okay. That's all right. It could be worse.
I don't even know where it's going to go right now. Oh, no, I know where it's going to go. It's going to go up against Patchwork.
Yep. That's right. So, and our final round will be Tapestry versus Barren Park. This is also one that... this is my second favorite Stonemaier game, Tapestry.
So I need to put you over here, and I got to throw you two in here.
Daniel, you will be leading us off this round.
Oh, man.
Whether you get Barren Park or Tapestry.
Which hurts my heart.
It does. It does me too. It does less so, but I know which one I instantly want to go on.
Yeah,
but...
same. Hey, and I get to argue Baron Park.
Okay, that's
me
fine.
being the Stonemaier guy get to argue Baron Park.
Yeah, that's okay. I can argue Tapestry.
All right, so I just need to move those and put this one in here. Because whoever's facing winning this one goes on against Castles of Burgundy.
So why are we even debating at this point now?
All right, so I get Baron Park, and easily this is probably my favorite polynomial game on this list.
Baron Park?
Baron Park.
Okay.
When it comes to ease of play, it's much easier than Tapestry.
Yes.
Tapestry is a chore to teach. And the big thing about it is, for me, the big part about Baron Park...
Which is funny because functionally it's actually easier. Like, you just move a token on a track.
Yeah.
You have 4 tracks, that's it. Like,
but you got to pay attention to everything. Because
everything else is...
Yeah, and I was about to mention it.
Yep.
When we call theme matching the mechanism, I think Baron Park fits better because you're trying to fit on the board better and build a park in a somewhat logical aspect.
It's one of the few examples where the simplicity of it makes the theme make more sense.
And the fact of the matter is, Tapestry, when it comes to this grid covering, it's only a part of the game. Your main part of the game is moving along those tracks. So you're building in your capital. But you don't necessarily have to build. You want to, because you want to get those buildings off your player board for you can start getting more resources and stuff like that. That was one of our games that has to move on. So, but Baron Park, at its core, is one of the most simplistic, smartest games on this list.
Okay.
When you're talking about ease of play, it's very easy to teach. You do what you got to do. You fill in the grid.
Take a tile.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then, if you fill your board, you can get a second board. And you get a treasure token, and you're getting points based on how many you're getting out there. And if you could take another park piece, a bigger park piece, you're going to get points off of that too. So it is phenomenal on the easy aspect of it. I think Tapestry has more meaningful choices because you have to play smartly with the resources that you're getting. Baron Park, you're literally just taking a tile and putting a tile away. Game Immersion, I can get into Tapestry. I can feel like I'm a civilization. That's who I'm playing. Their abilities are good. But the big issue is Baron Park. I feel like I'm building a bear park in a sense because, okay, I'm going to put the koalas over here and I'm going to put the polar bears over here, which I don't know why koalas are in this game. They're marsupials, not bears.
Well, they're not barons, that's for sure.
But for me personally, I think Baron Park has to move on. Okay. When I go into it, ease of play, meaningful choices, game immersion gets there as well as replay value. Not because of expansions, but because of the scaling. I think it scales very well for 4 players, as well as the what is that second criteria? Because I'm drawing a blank on it right now. The minimum number of plays to get the full experience. No, I don't know. Yeah. This is tough.
This could be it. Yeah. I mean, the two that are immediately obvious to me are ease of play and art and production. Because art and production would go to Tapestry, ease of play goes to Baron Park.
Yeah. Tapestry is phenomenal.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I'm going to argue for Tapestry.
Yeah.
And this is one of the few examples of when I first played this, I absolutely liked the mess out of it. I really want to eventually buy my own copy because I just remember really enjoying how simple that mechanism of moving the tokens along the track is, paying what you need to pay, but then at the same time trying to figure out which paths make the most sense for you. Really, you're devoting one of 4 choices. You have 4 choices every turn.
Aha!
But
expansion adds a 5th.
Yeah, the expansion adds a 5th, but really it's
really
just 4 choices. Whereas the number of choices in Baron Park is only based off of the choices that you have of tiles that you have pre-planned. So I think we need to break this down.
Okay.
Ease of play, like I said, Baron Park. Replay value. Now, so this is interesting. Length of time and scaling well definitely goes to Baron Park.
Hands down. But when
minimum number of plays would be Tapestry. Yep. Expandability, I believe, would go to Tapestry.
2 expansions compared to 1.
Yeah, because Baron Park only has the one.
Bad News Bears.
Bad News Bears, yeah.
Yep. So replay value goes to Tapestry.
Yep, okay. Meaningful choice, I think, would go to Baron Park, in my opinion. And that's because your long-term strategy is definitely a huge thing. Yeah. And impacting the other players. Tapestry is certainly more of a reactionary thing. Like, based on what they do, if they're building off in the mid-map, then that's a huge reactionary thing. If you're going more towards war or more towards, building up your own civilization or your tapestries, that affects other players. But really, when you pick a single tile in any part of Baron Park other than the basic tiles, then that limits the amount of points that the other player can immediately, or any other player can take. If you take one of the orange tiles, nobody else can get that tile, whether you use it or not. That is huge interaction. And then also the timing is huge. When you finish off your grid, the 15 spots, and you take the highest victory point.
The statues.
Yeah, exactly. And then so that diminishes over time as well. And so that's a huge thing. So I think meaningful choice, there's no arbitrary choice whatsoever in Baron Park. So I think meaningful choice goes to Baron Park.
So you're saying 2-2. So that leads to game immersion.
Game immersion. Neither of the themes match the mechanisms.
Baron Park does it more, in my estimation, not really the theme part of it, but the mechanism, it's the big part of the game. So when we're also talking about does it fit the category best, Baron Park fits it best because that
it does make sense that you're building a weird shaped park.
The grid coverage of it, when it comes to Tapestry, is only a minimum part of the game. Okay. You can even not worry about your capital city. It's not recommended, but there are civilizations that allow you to still pull those pieces off. You just don't put them on your city capital. You can put them on the map. Okay. So agreed. It's a minimal part of the thing. As well as player interactions, as you were talking, I think that's more into Tapestry side.
Yeah, to an extent.
Think about it when you were trying to go for that center map.
Yeah, when that's really the only thing,
or someone starts encroaching into your territory too.
You start getting really annoyed by them. And you start figuring out, hey, like, what are these guys all about? Are they trying to conquer? Are they just expanding? What's their deal here?
And the other thing too is the tapestries themselves. If you're trying to mess with someone, they can use a tapestry card to play a trap card on you.
Sure. Yeah.
Or another big one is. When you're building technologies, you have to worry about what your neighbors have because you can get their ability. Hey, you could get this if you or one of your neighbors have it. So if you're sitting across the catty corner to someone else, you don't have to worry about that person. Because so I think there's just a lot more player interaction.
Player interaction with Tapestry. Okay.
In that part aspect because it's built into the game.
So really it boils down to memorable moments. I don't think either of them specifically have any.
The only one I could think of on Tapestry side is when one of our mutual friends was playing or rolling the war die. He needed one specific thing to come up and it popped up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exciting. Very random, but
it's random. Or for me, what I like to do, or what I did, and that's memorable for me on Tapestry side, is when I finish the science track, it allows me to time loop, and I can start building on another track somewhere else. So I have 2 cubes on one track.
Okay. Yeah. So those combos and those abilities.
But in Baron Park.
Like it's awfully satisfying
when you could get like that
fact
statue.
That you're building your own polyomino with the construction tiles too.
Yeah, so
like that's a really satisfying feeling. But
would be okay saying memorable moments is a scratch because there's both memorable moments.
I'm fine with that.
So that game immersion is a push.
Okay, so that's 2 and 2 and a push, right?
Yeah. Let's see if
anything... we're indecisive today, aren't we?
Because these are really good games.
They really are.
All right.
Yeah.
Another refresh and find out what happens.
Yep, which I think I already see unless it changes. Go ahead and see more just in case. Yep, that means Tapestry moves on with 1 vote ahead.
Yeah, that's crazy. So Tapestry, which is number 4.
So really our top 4 just moved on.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
All right,
so let's go ahead and do...
into the semifinals.
Our quick vote real quick.
Yeah.
The number 8 seed Rome did not get a single vote, so it didn't move on. Our number 7 seed Silver and Gold did not get a single vote. It didn't move on. Our number 6 seed Tiny Towns did not get a single vote, so no love there. And Aaron Park did not get a single vote. So.
This is awkward. Yeah. So, I mean, but it kind of proves for grid coverage, we weren't wrong in how we were arguing it. At least compared to the other votes. There is one that's obviously a little different up on the map, but we'll talk about that here in a bit.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next round. Let me just get out of this real quick. All right, there we go. And so we have Castles of Burgundy versus Tapestry.
This will be different. All right. Daniel, you'll be starting off this debate. Will you get Castles of Burgundy or Tapestry? This is the one that I think hurts you the most.
No, I know which one I prefer more.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Then let's see which one you argue. Ooh, ASMR.
I get Castles of Burgundy.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, for me, this is the one I believe should move on. I just think it meets a lot of the criterias for this one. We're talking expansions. How many expansions are there in Castles of Burgundy?
Yeah, small expansions, but
they're expansions.
Yep.
There's, 10 of them?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like mini packs and
different map packs. Extra tiles. Tapestry only has the 2. Mind you, they're gorgeous. Art and production goes. That's
Tapestry.
That's Tapestry.
Without a doubt. Yeah, there's no argument there.
So for me, when I'm just going through our criteria quickly, I think ease of play goes to Tapestry. It's slightly easier because you get your resources, and then you have to do all that other stuff. There's a lot of moving parts in Castles of Burgundy.
There is.
I think there's much more meaningful choices.
But now, hold on. Let's think about that for a minute. The core mechanism of Tapestry is just moving a dial or moving a token on a track, right?
And spending a resource to do it.
Yeah, but then the core mechanism in Castle of Burgundy is just take a number die and use its action.
But here's the problem with using the action. Where do you use the action? Do you use it to get stuff on the boat?
4 options. You have 4 options, and it comes back to Tapestry. 4 choices of which track. So technically.
But I think more people are going to understand I spend a resource to move up over here and then follow suit. More so because... And also, Castles of Burgundy just looks intimidating.
It does, yeah.
And so you have a better chance. Okay, if I show Tapestry, just the box cover to people and say it's a civilization game that plays in so many time, or show the cover of Castles of Burgundy, what do you think their choice is going to be?
Probably Tapestry, yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I do think, based on the theme and how pretty it is, it's more likely to get to the table.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily easier.
So I'm just going to...
I would say it would be the same level of difficulty for both.
I just think Tapestry, just the simplicity and familiarity of spend a resource, do an action. More so than take a die and do 4 actions. But what do those actions exactly do?
Take a tile, place a tile, just ship tokens, or get some workers. That's it.
That could be... I remember when I first played it, I dig the game.
You don't have to pay resources for it.
But it was very intimidating for a new player.
It is intimidating.
I showed Tapestry to new players to that game, and they really enjoyed it.
Yep.
So that's
I've turned people into gamers with Castle of Burgundy. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just providing a counter argument. I agree. It should go to Tapestry, but not that big of a difference.
Here's the big reason why I think Tapestry wins this one. What's that third criteria?
Prone to analysis paralysis. There's way more to consider in Tapestry.
Yes, but it's much more simpler. I've played both these games with someone with AP, and I'd rather play Tapestry than Castles of Burgundy.
Okay. The thing is, the reason why I'm saying that it's more complicated for Tapestry is because the different things that you're doing, like whether you're expanding the map, building Tapestry for your civilization, all of your different endgame goals, those are very, very different things. Versus Castle of Burgundy, you have every building as its own thing, its own beast. Yeah. But really,
and then when you're talking about buildings, the yellow buildings and all their special abilities,
but you're building buildings.
Plus, the way Castle of Burgundy is structured.
Yes.
Here's the big thing about Castles of Burgundy's structure. It's played over how many rounds?
6.
And 5. How many turns per round?
5. So it's 25 turns total.
Yeah, that could be intimidating. Okay, what do I do?
No, I'm not saying it's not intimidating. I'm just saying, like, technically all you're doing is all functionally the same thing. You're building a building, taking a building, building a building. That's it. Not taking a tile, expanding your domain, taking a card.
Our mutual friend who suffers from AP because they're min-maxers.
Yeah.
Which game would you prefer to play with them?
The Castles of Burgundy.
No.
Yes, I would personally, yes.
Tapestry.
Yeah, and I'm not making that argument just to argue. I do think Ease of Play should go to Tapestry, but I don't think it's because of that.
Also, going to replay value, length of time, and scaling well. I think that slightly goes to Castles of Burgundy just because the length of time and scaling well. Tapestry can take longer with more people.
It could be... That's not to say it's a short game, right?
In the expandability, it's 2 expansions versus 10 mini expansions.
Yeah,
right. But I do think a minimum number of plays...
And one of the expansions is an errata expansion, too. Like, kind of like...
in a sense, yes.
In a way. And so that's a big thing.
It isn't an errata expansion. It just has an errata on it. So
right.
that cheat sheet from that errata you can already get on Board Game Geek. He did that before the expansion came out. He just put it where people can reference it easier. But no, I get it. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
I don't like that. That doesn't expand the ability to play.
Yeah, no.
So much as it corrects it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does add more civilization, which gives you more to look at. But yeah, I think replay value goes to Castles of Burgundy. When I'm going to meaningful choice,
Castles of Burgundy. Because and for one main factor why I claim this for Castles of Burgundy is because Stefan Feld did something that most dice games cannot do. He made every dice number that you can roll equally as valuable of an option, depending on the circumstances.
Yes.
Like when a 6 is not better than a 1. Like in a lot of games, if you roll a higher number, you're better.
But here's the problem.
You know.
My argument for that is, does it fall into the meaningful choice category? Or does it fall into the graphic design category in art and production? Because that's a very important factor.
That's a mechanism. So it has nothing to do with the graphic design. The fact that its number is perfect, that it's cyclical, you know, you're able to that it's just a happy coincidence. But the fact that it's because of that ability.
The thing is, I'm arguing Castles of Burgundy. Why am I fighting for Tapestry?
No. Well, the thing is, there's no bad roll, right?
Yeah.
You know, you have as many options with your rolls as any other player, regardless of what number you roll.
Okay.
That just helps refine your choices.
Let's take a quick pause real quick. Art and production.
Tapestry. Yeah. Okay, that's easy.
Ease of play. We're both arguing Tapestry.
Yeah, okay.
You're saying meaningful choice in Castles of Burgundy.
Correct.
I haven't made up my mind just yet on that. We both say replay value goes to Castles of Burgundy.
Correct, yeah.
Meaningful choice, I'm just looking through this. I have to agree with you because Castles of Burgundy does have a lot more meaningful choices. The only issue that I have with Castles of Burgundy is if you're not getting the ability to ship goods, you can't move along your boat along or be able to pick up the river, which means you can't get first player if you're so far back on the sea, which can impact you. And that is not a choice you can make sometimes. Some things are taken away from you, especially if it's the start of the game and everybody picks up the shipping stuff before you can.
And the same, almost the same argument can be made if somebody developed the center map way faster than you could.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, agree.
The center map part of that is only
a portion.
A portion of Tapestry, but whereas being first player can be very important in Castles of Burgundy.
Correct, yeah.
And that's the only thing about that. When it goes into game immersion, I think the theme matching the mechanism, or in this case, which fits the category best, that goes to Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah?
Because, again, going back to my further argument... It makes sense
building a domain, you have your region.
But it goes back to my original argument, that's only a small part of the game.
Tapestry, yeah. Which is always a detriment.
I think there's a lot more player interaction.
In Tapestry?
Okay, yeah, Tapestry, just because the cards that are coming up, or you have to be aware what your neighbors are doing. Mm-hmm. Because that can allow you to do special abilities if your neighbors or yourself have met that criteria.
Well, in Castles of Burgundy, you can mostly ignore it.
Yeah, Castles of Burgundy dubbed a series of games called Multiplayer Solitaire.
No, it's not a multiplayer solitaire, because what you do does affect me, because if you take the tiles that I'm looking for, take a specific species of animal, if you take the buildings that will give me the
but my thing is, when it comes to the Multiplayer Solitaire, yes, I could take something that comes to you that you want. But in all honesty, how many times have you played Castles of Burgundy where it's...
Yep. Yeah.
And then
you're
round.
there. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Whereas Tapestry, I have to pay attention to what you guys are doing.
Because you have to look at their tokens because they're on the same track as you.
Not just that. You want to be the first one to reach the landmarks that you can put on your board, or you want to be the first one to go into space because of the rewards from there.
I just thought of a good counter argument as far as art and production goes. As a benefit for Castle of Burgundy, at least the tiles fit on the grid.
Just because of the
Yep.
Yeah, but
mic drop. No, I'm just kidding.
Here's the problem with that: do they stay on the grid? one thing about Tapestry, at least it's got that
nice... It's got the texture. Yeah, okay. All right.
So...
Touché.
Well, all right, so where were we? We're in the game Immersion. Yeah. So does the game... I say Castles of Burgundy. Player interaction, I think more goes to Tapestry. Okay. Which one has more memorable moments?
I have to call that a wash. I don't think
I do too. I've played them both a mess of times that I can have memorable moments on both games. With Tapestry,
and I don't feel like any the same kind of memorable moment. I can't remember. When you're comboing like all the castles and doing the castle, doing this, doing that. Like all of those, that's the same gratification as in Tapestry when you pull those combos. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to move on this.
Or my personal favorite when you and our mutual friend Dom were playing this, and you're battling it out in the middle of the map, and I'm just sitting there like, nah, screw that. You guys can fight yourself. I'm staying on my little island.
Yep.
I'm going to put all my towers here. You guys can't come into my space. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I still had a chance of winning that game without me conquering like you guys.
Right.
And the thing, when it goes into our production, we already said this for Tapestry, but I see where this is going, and I think we're both in agreement that Castles of Burgundy should move on.
Yeah.
Tapestry has a very smart graphic design.
It does.
Just because the board across from each other play very well. So if you're going for a militaristic conquering lands, the military track and the exploring track, which allows you to open up more land, is phenomenal together, as well as the science track and the technology track play really well, and they're both on opposite sides.
And that's a really smart design. And also like the Tapestry cards themselves, don't they match the background of like your player field? Yeah. The graphic design is paramount in that. But agreed with that, I do think because of the meaningful choice, I would give it to Castles of Burgundy.
I agree with you.
Cool.
Yes, I do agree with Illuminesi saying over here, Castles is showing its age. That's why, like he was mentioning earlier, Castles of Tuscany does some stuff that helps it more for the modern age.
That's right. All right, and our last one will be Patchwork versus Cartographers.
A 2-player polynomial game versus a multiplayer polynomial.
Right. Yeah. Well, we know which one scale is it going to go to. All right, you're going to be doing the argument. I hope you pull Patchwork.
I pull Cartographers.
Okay. All right.
Just to show you, that's the one I pulled.
I trust you. Why would you cheat at something like this, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I get to argue Cartographers, and honestly, I'm going to go off the beaten path here, or not the beaten path, but going on a limb. I say Cartographers is easier to play than Patchworks, just because of the moving around, making sure you get the buttons and that triggering. Where Cartographers,
we've had this argument already. What was it that Cartographers was against?
Tiny Towns.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think Cartographers is slightly easier to play just because it's coming to the card and you're putting it out there on the board. I think
the theme is more accessible.
Art and production, Patchworks.
Okay, agreed.
Because base Cartographers, you get a lot of map packs. That's nice, and it's double-sided, so you can play a more difficult map. And pencils and some nice cards. Great artwork. Yeah, I will say the artwork is better in.
I mean, you draw your own thing.
Yeah. And sometimes I've seen people who've done it really nice on Cartographers. But Patchwork, it's nice. I think the art is better on Cartographers.
The art is only based on whoever's drawing it. That's funny.
Well, no, because the cards and the cityscapes are really good on Cartographers. But however, pieces and components goes to Patchwork, and the graphic design goes much more to Patchworks as well.
Sure.
So there, I got my 2 out of the way. The big thing here is replay value, because it's a lot tougher to do this, because are we counting standalone games as expansions, but there's not an expansion for it?
It should not, because functionally it's the same game. It's just a different theme. Yeah. So I think replay value definitely goes to Cartographers.
Yeah, because one, it's got length of time.
It has expansions.
It has
scaling.
Let's see, it's got 1 expansion, standalone expansion, plus 3 map packs.
Yeah, to experience everything, you still need more plays in Cartographer. Yeah, it wins on all 3.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Game immersion. Does the game fit the category best? They match the mechanism. I will say that's Patchwork. You do feel like you're quilting, but for me, player interaction more so on Cartographers, especially when it comes to like the monsters coming up on the map. Even in solo play, because there is a trigger when monsters got to come up on the map where you have to build the monster as well. So I think that's great interaction. just by one player.
And I know you're going to claim memorable moments as well for Cartographers.
For me personally, yes.
Yeah.
The only thing is, or the reason being, is because I've only played Patchwork twice, once with you and once with our mutual friend Gamehead Geek, and both times I'm like, this is cool, and I got negative points, but that's a memorable moment because
That's memorable.
I got negative points.
Sure.
But it's not a positive memorable moment,
Sure.
and sometimes that's a detractor for a game.
Right. No, I agree.
So, going to that meaningful choice, though, and this is one I know you're going to argue, but I'm going to have to say I agree with you. It's Patchwork.
Yeah, Patchwork goes to meaningful choice.
So
my counter argument is I agree with everything you just said. Patchwork moves on.
Ease of play.
Oh no, Cartographers moves on.
Cartographers moves on. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That was easy.
That was much easier than normal.
No, Yep, you said everything that I was going to counter argue because I stand by Patchwork being more of a meaningful choice, and I do think that it's a better art and production. But ultimately, that's where it stops.
I'm not saying Cartographer is an ugly game by any means.
No. In fact, the argument that I would make for it, I would even almost give it art and production for Cartographers, because in a roll and write where you're drawing terrain types, that the iconography that they chose is not only recognizable and easy to determine what it is, regardless of what color it is.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're looking at, and it's simple enough that anybody can draw that.
Yeah.
I could give that to an 8-year-old kid, and they would be able to draw that and functionally have as much of a...
I agree.
As much as, so that's why, even though you're drawing it, the graphic design is very paramount in that, and that's what it needed, and it does happen.
I will say this about Cartographers too. We talk about it all the time. Both you and me are colorblind. Red-green colorblind.
Yes.
And they do something we always say you should do when you're doing graphic design. If you're going to use red and green, make them different shades. Make one dark and one light. And Cartographers does that. And for you to, and the thing is, sometimes it comes out as like it's a card. You could draw a house or you could draw a forest. One's green, one's red. But hey, there's a shade variant, so I know. And then you put the symbol on it as well.
Yep, they're very, very clear as to what it is. So they definitely took that into consideration.
So I have them give them a props for that. So we're moving on to
the final round. So in the final round, which we'll get to the votes in a minute, but in the final round, what we do is we do not pick a side, we do not pick random. We just argue it point by point, argue each of the 5 criteria, see if there is a clear, defined winner, and if not, then we take it to the fan vote as always. This is normally when we get the biggest arguments between us, but then we also reference a lot of the past arguments that we've already made, which makes it nice and easy.
So, moving on, Tapestry was our number 4 seed, and it had 1 vote. And Patchwork was our number 2 seed, and I think it had 0 votes.
Yeah. 0 votes, which is a shame.
Alrighty, so let's move on. Let me put this up over here. And so now, again, as you mentioned, we don't make a decision here. Right. So what is jumping out on you?
Meaningful choices. Castles of Burgundy.
I agree wholeheartedly on that one.
Art and production, we always throw Castles of Burgundy under the bus because it deserves it.
And we just mentioned it about Cartographers, about the way they made it graphic design-wise. I think the production is better in Castles of Burgundy because
the thin tiles. They're thinner tiles.
The boards.
Paper mats.
Yeah. And the colors, the tiles are so hard to read.
Yeah.
And even on the upgraded. My buddy, our buddy that we mentioned, Gamehead Geek, he has the newest one, the anniversary edition.
Yeah. Now, I like the cover better.
The cover
I've always loved that minimalistic style cover.
The cover's great.
The art
looks
is better
exactly
in
the same, just
yeah.
Brighter. It doesn't help me any because the browns are still the same shade, even if they're all brighter.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing I had, and I have to mention this about Castles of Burgundy. There's 2 browns in this one, a tan and a brown.
Wait, what's the other brown?
It's a...
There's yellow, brown, tan,
silver.
Green,
oh, sorry, it's the green.
Silver.
The green is what's bothering me because the tan and the green.
And there's 2 shades of green. There's a light green and a dark green.
Yes.
Which is, that's something.
Yeah. So, okay, art and production is going to Cartographers.
Okay.
So replay value, I think, also goes to Castles of Burgundy. And I think the scaling I think is better in Cartographers, but the replay value, 10 expansions versus how many?
And even like base game alone, minimum number of plays for
to get
full
the full experience.
Yeah, because of all the different science tiles that may or may not come out.
In the center.
And the center tiles, yeah, there is more going on. And just the way you do it, like they have all the different start maps that are either the same, or you can flip them over and have completely different maps.
Yeah.
And how you have to work with that.
And the thing is,
huge.
What I like about Castles of Burgundy, and doing this way back when it came out, is that with the map packs, everybody plays on the same map the first time you play through it, if it's their first play. And you can introduce new players and say, hey, this is the map you're going to play.
Yep, and I symbol
I'll play something different because I'm more experienced in it, making it more difficult for myself and still giving you advantage. That's not something you saw back in, 2013?
2011, I think.
Yeah, 2011? Yeah, and so I thought that was a little smart design.
Absolutely.
Which one's easier to play?
Cartographers, duh. I mean, that's pretty obvious, I think. I mean,
all right, so as of right now, we're 2 for 2.
Okay, so it comes down to game immersion. Holy cow.
Which fits the category best, or the theme matching the mechanism? I say Castles of Burgundy fits that criteria.
Yes, because building buildings onto a pre-existing terrain is different than creating a terrain. I don't care that you say you're discovering it. No, you're choosing where that forest goes. That is not discovering.
No, I discovered it over here. This person discovered it.
If that happened, Columbus would have found India a lot quicker. He's like, I put India here. And it'll be actually India. It's no. Yeah. Game magic. That's the one argument I will always make towards cartographers. That makes no sense. I like it. It wouldn't function otherwise.
I know we're going to get into an argument about this one.
Okay.
But I still think the player interaction goes to cartographers.
I agree.
Okay.
I do. 100%.
Because, again, multiplayer, solid player, I know what you're saying, but most of the times when you play Castles of Burgundy, you're looking at your board, you're doing your decision. Oh, look, they took that tile.
Right.
Here's a plethora of other decisions I can make. It doesn't hurt me as much.
Right.
As well as memorable moments.
Memorable moments I would call a wash.
I would agree with you because I've had both.
They are both essentially multiplayer solitaire.
Mm-hmm.
What you do does not affect anybody else, and because of that, there's no reason to egg people on. There's no reason to interact with them. There's no role playing with any of them.
I do have to say, and this is just, again, going to me, that my best memorable moments out of both of these games is I'm playing with the couple that I've talked about before, and her husband drew where the monster goes, and all you hear is, why the flip would you put that over here? Because it was like in the one, because the scoring was that you have to build in a corner, and as much as you go this way, it's your points if it's filled in.
Yeah.
And so that's what she's been concentrating on the whole time, and the monster's up in the top corner way over here. And now she's got to go start working over there because it's going to be negative points at the end of the round.
Yep.
So that's the best memorable moment I had of all this. Right. But I've had really good ones with Castles of Burgundy, playing it with you and finally beating you, and it was what?
You were ecstatic when I finally let you win.
But I'll give you a wash on that. So
which means that's going to go to tiebreaker.
2-2 and 2 on there, so we have to go tiebreaker.
I could not expect if you told me at the beginning of this that Cartographers was going to go up against
Castles of Burgundy and
be
fight?
a wash, yeah, I would not have believed it.
All right,
but let's go ahead and refresh it.
We're going to refresh. All right, so oh my!
By 1 vote difference.
What the heck?
Okay. Fair enough.
What's funny is the reason why we left this poll open is because there wasn't enough votes. Cartographers and Castles of Burgundy, when we were going to close the poll, were tied at 6-6.
Yep.
Cartographers ends up winning it by 1.
1 vote. 1 vote was the deciding factor. So, Cartographers is the best grid coverage game. And if you think about it, really, you're covering multiple spaces on a grid. In Cartographers, you're not doing that in Castles of Burgundy. You put down a single grid space.
At a time, yeah. So I get it,
at that
and it makes sense.
Very, very defined.
So, and just to let everybody know, clearly, Cartographers wasn't our number 1 vote getter. That was Isle of Cats.
Isle of Cats, yeah.
So, both of which we haven't played.
Yeah, but the fact that Castles of Burgundy and Cartographers 7-6 votes, that goes to show it. And who knows? Like, we may check this tomorrow and
it might be
Castles of
different.
Burgundy.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to go back and rescind that if that's the case, or?
No, it's locked down. It's done.
Darn, 'cause I was going to go vote for it.
No, our one rule is we can't vote for the polls.
Right, and I think actually you and I both agree that we both like Castles of Burgundy better. Like, that's definitely a higher up game than myself. But I'm okay with that.
I have to look at my top 100. I don't exactly remember what both fell.
Yeah, I mean, I know.
I think both of them are top 10s. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And mine is definitely I like Castle of Burgundy without a doubt better. But yeah, congratulations to Cartographer, Thunderworks Games, Keith at Thunderworks. Thank you for publishing it, and there's a reason it won the.
Yeah, it was really good.
It won Kennerspiel, right?
Or yes, it won. It won the no.
It was nominated.
It was nominated. I think it. No, it did win it because when we congratulated him on it, he's like, "Ah, it does good for us in Europe."
Right. Exactly. No, I think it was still only nominated.
Nominated.
Though.
Okay.
Because wasn't that the year that the Crew won?
Was it the year the Crew won?
I think so. We'll have to go back and check this because now we're
confused. No, yeah,
right.
I think that's when the Crew won the Kinderspiel.
Yeah, that's what I believe so. But either way, good job to Cartographers taking our bias out of it. I probably could have pushed a little bit harder on Castle Burgundy, but I don't think it would have
mattered.
I don't think it would have mattered, no. So we want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you for Illuminous for joining us on the chat. Thank you so much as always. And of course, anybody else who joins us on these live chats, this is always fun to hear your input and see what you think about this. So if you want to do that in a future episode, tune in to twitch.tv/everydayboardgames and you can join us. And please subscribe to us or follow us so that way you know when we come online. Typically, lately, we've been doing Wednesdays, but that may change.
Yeah, just because of our work schedules. Mm-hmm. As well as you can find all video re-uploads found on YouTube at Everyday Board Games 2020. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on that platform. Subscribe if you are not. Like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject. As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, and Podbean.
And also, if you want to say hi to us directly or have an idea for a future episode or want to give us comments directly, email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com.
As well as you can also get in contact with us on our official Twitter account at EBG Podcast.
So we want to thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our show today. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.